once you've dug your dahlias, it's really important that you give them some time to dry. And I can't really tell you how long that will be, because it depends how wet were the tubers when you dug them, what sort of soil have you got. If it's heavy clay, it's going to hold a lot of moisture on them, and how warm is it while you're storing them. That noise is Molly looking for mice under the bench. But the tubers, when they're ready to store, should feel dry to the touch. They shouldn't be damp in any way. And if there's any soil attached to the tuber lump, that should be quite dry. You don't want them to get crispy. You don't want them to start to shrivel or shrink so that the skin in any way looks wrinkly. So it is a fine line. You feel them, they're not damp. Imagine if you just dug a potato and it would feel damp on the outside, and if you left it out for a while, it would have a slightly thicker skin, it would be dry, and that is the ideal time to store them. So these have only been dug for a few days. Before I've left them for a couple of weeks to dry, but the soil was dry, and it was a dry day, and it's very mild, and these are ready. So I'm going to take off any excess soil that I can without damaging the tuber. If there's bits right in there, I'm not going to start pulling the tuber apart to get it out, because if I damage any of these growing points at the top, I won't get flowers next year. So I'm just gently getting off as much as I can so that I've got a fairly clean tuber. When you're digging your tubers and cleaning them off, it's a great time to inspect them for general health. I will show you in part 2 an example of gall, which you really can't miss because it's a bad one. It's left in the field, I haven't dug it so that I don't contaminate other dahlias. But other things you'd be looking out for are any squishy bits of tuber. Sometimes one of the arms of the tuber starts to rot, but not the whole thing. Often that's the very first one that you planted, or the mother tuber, and you can literally, with a pair of gloves, just scrape that all away with your fingers so that there's no soft flesh. Cut it out if you can, and then the rest of the tuber should be fine. Try and get rid of as much of the mush as you can, because it can spread during storage. If you've got loads of one variety, and if you're in doubt, just get rid of it so that it can't contaminate the rest of your tubers while they're in storage. So once you've got your tubers nice and clean from soil and you've checked them for any disease parts, it's time to store them. And I use crates, and they're great because they've got air holes, and a decent flow of air is really important to prevent them going mouldy. If you don't have crates, you could use cardboard bags or cardboard boxes, but don't store them in plastic because they sweat and go rotten. I use this. It's actually a biodegradable weave membrane, but it's just a bit of fabric. Again, don't use plastic. You could use thin cardboard, recycled packages, but it's just to line the crates so that this wood shavings can be held in there, not fall through the gaps. And I've tried to store dahlias in lots of different things, and the wood shavings is by far the most reliable. And I think it's because they absorb a certain amount of moisture, and they also can hold a bit of moisture. And during storage, it really is just a very fine line between being dry enough not to go mouldy, keeping warm enough not to freeze, and not getting so dry that they shrivel up. I'm putting these in here. And I'm just trying to get them so that I can stack another crate on top, because we store these in the shed stacked up to the ceiling. Don't forget to label them. Now, I label them twice. This is my field label. These are snowstorm, but I've also put a tag on the box, because when you come to unload them next spring, you'll never remember what they are. So wood shavings, cover them up. Creates a fantastic insulator, and as I say, a really good way to manage the moisture levels. There we go. And they will go in a frost-free shed. They don't want to be warm, and they don't want to be damp, and they will come out next spring.